We don't have to make motions tonight.
Oh, you got the best motion makers around.
I know.
Better get at least one motion out of your mouth.
At least one.
You always do at least one.
I think you didn't do one last time, did you?
No, I let everyone else take the cake.
They have like a buzzer for you.
There. I'm ready when you are.
Good.
No.
No? Yes, we are.
Lights are red now.
Lights are red.
Now they're on.
Good.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the May 15th Planning and Zoning meeting for City of Mountain Home. First item on the agenda is to establish a quorum, and a quorum has been met. Item number 2 is approved meeting minutes from 1 May 2023.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yep.
To approve the minutes from May 1st, 2023.
Second. Go down with you, Scott.
Aye.
Aye.
As well, minutes from May 1st, 2023 is approved. Item 3, recognizing persons not on agenda. Scanning, seeing none. That's negative on that, so we'll go to item number 4. Does any commissioner employee, or commissioner family member have an economic interest in the matter on the agenda?
No.
None for me.
Negative.
Me as well, so negative on that. So first item of business is public hearing and action item. Action item, conditional use permit for Chad Spencer, Standard Plumbing. Conditional use permit to allow the renovation of existing non-conforming structure into a C3 zone at 120 South 3rd East. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Vice Chair, Planning and Zoning Commission. What we have before you today, we are dealing with non-conformities. The first one is a non-conforming building. The second item will be regarding a non-conforming use. So we look at our non-conforming title. We have an entire ordinance. And the reason we have that is we have uses or structures within the city that at a time, those were outright permitted to build at that time. But since then, we've either passed new laws or ordinances, which would make it so if I wanted to do that exact same thing today, I wouldn't be able to. So instead of just calling it illegal, we call it legal non-conforming. So when we have these certain circumstances, when we have either a non-conforming use or a non-conforming building, they're both two different things. We refer to this ordinance, and it is to help ensure that harmony is still within those neighborhoods. Because a lot of times stuff can be non-conforming because there's a change of the neighborhood around it. It's going from more residential to neighborhood commercial, what have you. And it's basically vetting those expectations. So the first one we have for you is concerning a non-conforming building. So we're here, right in council chambers, and here we have what was formerly the Cars Home Center, which is now Standard Plumbing. I believe that's correct?
Not exactly. It's still Cars Home Center.
It's still Cars Home Center.
Yeah, it's just owned by Stanford.
Still Cars Home Center. And right here, we have a building to the rear, which is the building in question, which is currently used for storage. I know there's some lumber storage in there. It's a typical CMU type building. However, Cars Home Center is looking at the opportunity to expand upon the building and to utilize it in a way which will more benefit their business. So this building is considered non-conforming. It is in the C3 zoning district, and the building setbacks for the C3 zoning district is a 8-foot rear setback and a 5-foot side setback. This building on the south and west sides is built right on the lot line. Therefore, that's what makes it legal non-conforming as a structure. City code directs us that a conditional use permit is required anytime a non-conforming structure is enlarged, extended, reconstructed, or structurally altered. What we're seeing is a significant change from going to a occupancy type where it just being storage, not necessarily open to the general public, to a portion being retail space. and expanding upon that use. So for those reasons, that is why we are in front of this body today. So what you will utilize is those same set of standards that we have for conditional uses. Does it go against the health, safety, well-being of the citizens of Mountain Home? That criteria that you're relatively familiar with. I'm not going to go through each individual one. It's in your staff report, and we've done it before. However, I do want to note that in our comprehensive plan, we looked to see if there was anything pertinent for this request. And one of the things that we found was one of the economic development goals is business retention and expansion. The proposed development modernizes an existing structure and expands a business currently operating in the city, thus offering citizens greater local retail options, which will ultimately reduce retail leakage, also identified in our comprehensive plan. So in our comprehensive plan, we can find reasons that this request would be supported. This is a C3 district, and it's right next to, and we're going to pull up this for you, because this is very important context right here. So we have the subject property, and I kind of moved things around, but the subject property is right here. So we have the boundary between C2 and C3. C2, that's our downtown area. In C2, you can build right up to the lot line. So really what we have here, by this building being partially zero lot lined, it's not out of the ordinary for that area, which is a good thing, which is one of the things we want to look at. Now let's say we were looking at like C3 right next to R3 or R2 or residential areas. That's when I'd probably recommend to this group that we want to look at it very carefully, because there's some non-conforming structures and buildings that we don't necessarily want it to continue. However, given the situation, staff has identified that being that it's zone C3, being that it's in proximity to C2, the nature of the use, it's staff's recommendation that the Planning and Zoning Commission ultimately recommend approval of this request. That's all I have for this moment. We do have the applicant's representative here present if you would like to hear from her. Let us know how you would like to proceed, Mr. Vice Chair.
Do you have any questions for us?
I do. I have a few before the public hops on. Do you want to have her come up or?
Yep.
So I don't think, how far are you planning on expanding? How many square feet is it at the moment? and
I'm
how-
not,
Okay, so it's not
Wait.
expanding in square feet in any way.
right? Hey, I just want to say one thing really quick. My family's owned this business since 1972. When I say it's because I owned it too long before I sold it.
Sure.
So we aren't changing the actual structure size. We are taking a third of the interior. And I don't know if you noticed right now where that parking lot is, there's a big hole. That hole was actually put in that building when it was built in 1972 in case we ever decided to change it into a store. So when we tore all those buildings down, that hole is now exposed. That would be the entrance to a small new store. It would only take up a third of that building. That warehouse is not totally being changed to a retail area.
Okay, what about the square footage altogether?
So there is no change in the square footage. So the
Okay.
reason for the conditional use permit is that they are significantly altering the nature of the building.
I meant the current square footage of it.
Square footage?
Yes.
It's 100 by 120.
I'd probably say roughly
Yeah.
100,000 square feet.
Yeah, no,
No,
10,
no, that would be it.
12,000.
Sorry. Yeah.
12,000.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need.
Any other questions?
No, it's pretty cut and dry.
So, so there's no change to the sub, I worry about the building, obviously, to the back of it. I would assume that's a residency that we're looking at.
Yeah, and
That's
nothing.
not gonna change, there's not gonna be any, okay. Okay, that's only because it's back directly up to it. I wanna make
Commissioner
sure.
Eichquist, The applicant has notified everyone who resides within 300 feet. The property owner of that residence has been notified, and not only have they been notified, we've had 2 big, beautiful signs announcing what was happening as well. I believe it is a valid concern, and during the public hearing, we can see if that resident is here, and I think we can definitely consider those concerns, and it should be part of the consideration. But I can tell you that the applicant has followed every regulation and requirement that we have as far as the public hearing and public notice requirement.
That's it.
Is there a comment?
None for me.
If we can be set back for a second, open it to public hearing, then we can back up if we have any questions. Thank you. This time we open up for a public hearing. When you come up, please just sign on the paper there with your name and pertinent information. So would anyone like to make a public comment? Seeing none, I will close the public comment section.
Vice Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the request of a conditional use permit to allow the renovation of an existing non-conforming structure in C3 zone at 120 South 3rd East.
Is there a second? Second. Start with you, Travis.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, roll, motion passes. The next public hearing and action item is a conditional use permit for Dominic Newton, a conditional use permit to allow the enlargement of a residential dwelling in C3 zone at 385 West Jackson Street. Mr. Church?
I'm actually going to be running this one. Commissioners, thanks for letting me speak again. We have Dominic Newton here tonight. He is, as you said, requesting a conditional use permit. Like Mr. Cherry already explained, this is going to be the night of non-conformings. This is a non-conforming land use. So the house that Mr. Newton is in the process of purchasing was built in 1945, obviously before all these codes existed. It is, however, in a C3 general business district, and because of that, to make any expansions, modifications to this home, he needs to comply with the conditional use permit process. We did jump in and we took a look at the comprehensive plan, just like we did on the last project. We believe it meets the qualifications under the comprehensive plan because the plan recognizes different types of housing. It also recognizes that we need to identify smart growth strategies for all income levels. Mr. Newton did meet all the requirements for public notices and the sign posting, and he did all that right, and we believe that this meets all the requirements.
Before we bring the applicant up, does anyone have any questions?
Open up the
None of them.
Applicant first?
public first, please.
Open it up for public comment. Anyone have public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment section.
I have one quick question. Is the driveway here required to be paved, or can this be gravel?
The driveway will be required to be paved. So even though that this is in a commercial district, it says any residential use that happens in a commercial district has to follow the R4 development standards, which does require for there to be a hard paved surface, be it concrete or asphalt. And I believe that the applicant is aware.
I wanted that anyways. I'm a concrete man. It don't need mowed. There will be all grass and flowers in the front, of course, but yeah, there's a driveway all the way to the back into the garage. That garage is actually getting moved a little bit now because the lot lines changed, or they were better identified. But it's basically the same.
Any questions?
Vice Chair? Quick question for the applicant and Mr. Curtis. Is there a driveway width minimum requirement in any of our ordinances or anything that?
So I can speak to that. For single family, typically no. It's just that a standard automobile truck, it has to be parked fully on a hard surface. If this was like a multi-family project, then the 9 by 18 rule definitely applies. So that would be the minimum. And again, I believe it's the applicant's intention to ensure that there is enough hard surface space that he's able to meet his off-street parking requirement, which is 2 spaces. Being though, and this is important to add as well, the R4 district for your parking space does not require for it to be covered. It doesn't require for it to be in a garage. With what the applicant intends to do, I believe he does intend to do a garage also. So that is actually above and beyond of what the current code requires.
The driveway is gonna end up being about 16 foot all the way in, and the fence is gonna be back enough to put 2 cars, so you could actually park 2 cars in front of the fence off the street, off the sidewalk.
That's great.
The sidewalk's a little tore up there too, we're gonna replace that.
Vice Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the request of a conditional use permit to allow the expansion of an existing single-family residential dwelling in the C3 General Business Zone at 385 West Jackson Street.
Have a second?
Second.
Start with you, Scott.
Aye.
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 Well, motion passes. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Next item of business is new business. There is none. Next item is old business. There is none. Department head items, code enforcement and building permit reports. Are there any questions? For staff?
Really quick, Vice Chair. The big items that our department is working on that is somewhat pertinent to this body is obviously the master transportation plan. That continues to go. Right now, specifically when it comes to vehicular traffic planning, the counts, identifying capital improvement projects, that's kind of where we are at now. We're looking at getting certain counts for certain areas that are high volume areas, and that's kind of what we're busy with. More of the busy work, not as fun as doing kind of the public engagement portion that we were able to do before. But we will give you updates every now and again, so you guys know where we are with that. That item will hopefully ultimately be adopted as a component of the comprehensive plan, and we'll use it as our policy document for transportation matters moving forward. The second thing is development impact fees. I know it seems like we just did them yesterday. That's because we kind of did. However, the state statute does require that we do an annual review of those development impact fees. Most recent, we had to make sure that our impact fee advisory group conforms to our ordinance. We had a lot of people who were affiliated with development, and we had to allow 2 individuals who did not receive any fiduciary direct benefits of development to be on that board. We have recently approved those two individuals, and we are currently trying to wrangle them so that we can send them to a meeting where staff can present our findings as far as our growth rate that we are at right now, the building permits that we're seeing come in, and if any changes need to be made. We will do that presentation to the Impact Fee Advisory Board. Then this body, I believe, will also see it as well before it goes to City Council for their ultimate decision. I can tell you that staff, we have identified that the anticipated growth rate that we had at the very beginning of 4% isn't something that we're quite seeing. We still have positive growth rate. However, because of that, when we look at our capital improvements plan and in particular road projects that we thought we were going to have to do in 10 years, a lot of those were able to push out substantially. So I think the development community, as far as what city staff has to recommend, can probably anticipate a recommended decrease. Again, that will come to you guys in a form of a memo, and you'll be privy to all of that information as well. And hopefully that summer, and hopefully that's something that we can have taken care of and seen by City Council, and if they approve any changes, have that completed by the end of the summer.
Mr. Cherry, is the new amended impact fees, do you think that's hindering new development at all? Or I know we raised it up, or it was raised up some.
Impact fees? that are implemented correctly and accurately should not be a hinder to development. In fact, state statute says that they can't. And that's one of the reasons an annual review is so important. And I believe that with staff's recommendations that we have, it tries to help ensure that that's not a hinder to development. Now, we know that building materials have gone down significantly from what they were, in particular lumber. We know interest rates haven't helped a lot, and we know we live in a crazy time. But I can tell you that staff's obligation is to ensure that we have a fair and equitable impact fee, and our memo will be consisting of recommendations to achieve that.
Vice Chair, I actually have a question about the violation. Consider me naive, this is mostly just my curiosity. Parking in a residential front yard setback, is this like campers, or is this physically people parking vehicles?
Physically parking in their grass.
Okay, so this isn't like a camper parked in someone's front yard type of thing?
So
Okay.
the code enforcement officer has no jurisdiction on the actual streets. What these typically are is they're parking cars, ATVs, even recreational vehicles, boats, that kind of thing, on the grass in their front yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a really large spike in that compared to anything we've seen. Not sure if it was the flavor of the month or what, but just curious. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not for me.
Do you have anything for us that wasn't mentioned?
At this moment, other than the items we've discussed, we don't have anything for you. I would anticipate that we're probably going to be having routine meetings. Things have picked up again. I know that at the beginning of the new year, we kind of got a little bit of respite. I hope you enjoyed it. Because we are only assessing applications, and we have a lot of stuff coming. So
Yeah.
we're going to have a very fun of that film side.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
It is the season to fill.
Any other questions?
Not for me.
If not, we adjourn the meeting at